Come spend a day with us in a small village in rural Iran, where the first thing you notice is the smell of wood smoke pulling at the cool morning air, where hands move with the quiet, exact rhythm of things done 1,000 times, and where a loaf of bread is still slapped by hand against the hot wall of a clay oven. Stay with us and listen. There is a steady chorus of clucking, the soft nick of hooves, and the rustle of wool as a grandmother's fingers work. Today we follow a family whose morning begins before the sun has fully warmed the hills. Negan with her horse Greta, Sarah tending the milk, Maliha and Upa mending fences, and Fatima gathering the lambs. You will feel the warmth of the kitchen from across the yard. If you enjoy timeless food traditions, give this video a like and stay with our family by subscribing. Dawn arrives slow and deliberate. Negan steps into the yard with a bucket of grain. At once the chickens scatter into a happy jumble. Their beaks scrape the wood. Greta, a steady mare with a soft eye, waits by the gate for her oats. Greta likes her oats, Negan says with a laugh, and the sound is both a greeting and a small ritual. Nearby, Maliha and Upa check the fences, twisting wire, tamping earth with practiced hands, because in a place like this, the livestock are a family's quiet insurance against hunger. Fatima moves among the lambs, herding them back toward the pen with soft calls. The lambs press close. They already know the sound of human hands that will bring them feed and cover. The yard hums like a slow machine. Uma, the grandmother, sits on a low stool spinning wool with an old spindle, her fingers swift, eyes steady. Her hands tell stories. There is a lifetime of winter garments and blankets compressed into their motion. Every thread she draws out is the same craft that feeds into the family's ordinary needs, threads that will one day be mended, warmed, and wrapped around sleeping children. Shaban passes by with a wide smile and a brief greeting. Community here is made of these small crossings. Names are spoken like anchors. They ground the day. But first, the milk. Sarah carries a metal pail from the milking shed, steam escaping as she moves. She filters the fresh milk through a thin cloth, the liquid bright and slightly sweet, catching the tiny bits of fodder. Always filter, she tells us, as if the advice is a recipe for trust. The milk is set on the hearth to heat. The pot sings as it comes to the gentle bubble, and the room fills with the scent of warm dairy mingled with smoke. This is where breakfast and later preserves begin. A small ritual of watching the milk, skimming when needed, letting it settle until jars of yogurt and bowls of future butter are coaxed from it. Sarah shows the next step with the quiet authority of someone who learned this from her mother and her grandmother. Some milk is ladled into wide, shallow pans to set for yogurt. The rest is poured into a long, narrow container destined for churning. They call their churn a traditional churn, often referred to locally as a mashk, a leather churn, made to pull butter patiently from cream. Neela comes to help. Together they lift the churn and begin the patient motion. A steady rhythm of shaking, rolling, and turning that has a sound like waves rubbing a shoreline. Hands press, the leather creaks, the churn moves in arcs. And there is a point when the separated butter appears like a pale, soft island emerging from darker buttermilk. The act is tactile and slow. You can almost feel the difference between warm milk and the thick yellow of butter as it gathers. The sensory details are small and intimate. The sound of the churn, the smell of heated milk, the coolness of whey as it drains. Sarah pats the butter by hand to press out the remaining buttermilk, and the surface gleams when a knife cuts a neat slice. They save the drained liquid, kashk or a cultured whey, for another dish, its sour tang meant for soups and stews later in the week. The dairy work is communal and rhythmic, a choreography of 2 generations working the same steps. Uma watches with a soft smile, as if the scene is both comfort and instruction. By mid-morning, the focus shifts to bread, and here the pace changes into something more demonstrative. Zara gathers flour and a measure of coarse bran from a sack, sifting them onto a low table. The dust builds like a faint cloud. Sunlight from the doorway makes it glow. Flour is mixed with water and a pinch of salt, then folded and pressed until a dough forms, smooth and slightly springy under the palms. Sarah demonstrates kneading. She leans in, pushes the dough away, folds it back, rotates, and presses again. Kneading is work and meditation. Each fold teaches elasticity, Each press teaches patience. Children hover to watch, fingertips barely touching the soft mass, learning the motions by watching the adult's hands. The oven is the heart of the next scene. A wood-fired clay oven, known as a tanner in many rural Iranian homes, is coaxed to life. Upa stacks olive wood and branches, the fire catching and crackling, smoke spiraling out as the inner walls heat to the dull, even glow the bakers want. They measure the heat by touch and by sight. An experienced hand tests the oven wall, then reaches for the dough. The technique is specific. A flattened disc is slapped against the hot curved surface, where it clings for a moment, then puffs and peels away when it is ready. Close up, each flatbread transforms from soft dough to blistered golden skin. Bubbles swell and burst. The edges crisp and darken slightly. The smell, warm, nutty, faintly smoky, rises and fills the courtyard. There are small magical moments that are really just craftsmanship. A woman taps a finished bread on the oven wall. There is a hollow, satisfying sound that signals doneness. Another bread lifts, light and slightly blistered. A child's hand reaches and tears it open, steam curling from the yeasty center. The family takes pride not in speed, but in quality. Each loaf is made with attention. The right pressure in kneading, the right moment to place it against the oven wall, the patient watching as it puffs. While the bread is baking, the cooking continues elsewhere. A simple liver dish is prepared with care and respect for the ingredient. Fatima washes the liver under cold water, then carefully removes the thin membrane and any veins with a small knife. She chops and minces with a steady, even rhythm. On the open pan over coals, she adds turmeric, a pinch of black pepper, and salt. Aromatic, modest seasonings that highlight rather than hide the meat. The liver cooks quickly. Without added oil, it roasts in its own juices, edges crispening and releasing a concentrated, savory perfume. A little turmeric, a little salt, Fatima says, as if reminding herself of the balance she was taught. The simplicity allows the smoke and the fire to be part of the flavor. Zara moves in the garden with nimble fingers, harvesting parsley, cilantro, a few sprigs of mint. Small green flashes against the brown earth. Tomatoes are diced with quick, clean strokes. Cucumber slices add coolness. Onions are cut thin, their sharp scent softened by a rinse and a gentle toss. The salad is finished with a scatter of sumac, its lemony red dust adding a bright tart note. Everything is assembled in shallow bowls and set on the low table. The warm flatbreads, the roasted liver, fresh salad, bowls of yogurt, and the pale yellow butter, and a small dish of drained whey. The colors are simple but striking. Green herbs, red sumac, golden butter, laid out with a kind of unassuming pride. Throughout the day there are tiny exchanges that speak more than any formal explanation. Negan offers bread to a visiting neighbor with a phrase that translates simply to "eat friend," and the neighbor replies with a laugh. Uma passes down a secret about making a firmer butter. Press it well," she says, and everyone leans in. These are not staged lessons, they are the currency of care, passed along without ceremony. Children weave among the adults, slipping in to taste a piece of bread still warm, and elders watch with the satisfaction of continuity. The skills will not be lost if hands young and old keep working together. As afternoon settles in, the meal comes together. Dishes are carried out, placed on a low table beneath a shade. The family sits close. Plates are shared, pieces passed hand to hand. The bread is torn and used to scoop up bits of liver and yogurt. The salad brushes across the palate, bright and cleansing. Someone lifts a small lump of butter and smears it onto the still warm bread. It melts quickly, pooling into the soft crumb. Conversation flows in short bursts. Stories about the morning's work. A joke about a stubborn goat. A quiet comment on how the dough rose that day. Laughter is soft and abundant. There is an emotional center to this meal that doesn't require a dramatic moment to be felt. It is the pleasure of being fed by hands you trust, the recognition that each plate holds hours of effort, and the joy of watching simple things become communal riches. The family shares stories of how their techniques were learned, who taught whom, and when. It becomes clear that every process is a link in a chain. The same fingers that knead dough also mend nets, that spin wool, that tend animals. Food here is more than sustenance. It is a living record of work and memory. Before we leave the table, the family offers a traditional, personal wish. Not as doctrine, but as a goodwill blessing. Uma speaks softly, and the group echoes her sentiment. May your table always have bread, and may your days be peaceful. It is simple, inclusive, and given with open palms. If the family mentions God in their wish, it is their own voice. Otherwise, the blessing reads like a human hope offered from one household to anyone who happens to listen. The moment is small, sincere, and fitting. A day's labor distilled into a wish for warmth and fullness. As the sun lowers, the yard slows. Tools are set aside. The oven, now cooling, still holds the echo of bread and coals. Children chase each other for a moment, then settle near elders, listening to stories or simply leaning against a familiar knee. We leave with the senses full. The memory of the oven's heat, the taste of fresh butter on warm flatbread, the metallic bright note of sumac on a simple salad, the low rumble of livestock settling for the night. If you come here yourself, you will find that the recipes are less a list of instructions and more a conversation with place. Firewood from the nearby grove, herbs from a small garden plot, and milk from cows tended at dawn. There is an integrity to this work. Food grown, tended, and prepared in the same place it will be eaten, and every element contributing to the day's shared meaning. Tell us in the comments, what would you try first, the oven-baked bread or the roasted liver? Don't forget to subscribe to join our next meal and to share this video with someone who loves food and tradition. May your table be full and your days be peaceful.